right, next up we're going to look at a line segment. So I'm going to have you pause the video here and go back to that tool, and when you do, before you do, I want you to write I notice, and we're going to write down some things that we notice with the line segment tool. So I'll go to Schoology again. There it is. I'm going to go down here to this line segment and experiment with this for a bit, and then go back to your notebook and write down what you notice about the line segment. So let's go ahead and pause it here and do that for a bit. All right. So I'm going to show you some of the things that I notice about a line segment. So a line segment it's like a line. I noticed that it's straight. So in my first observation, I noticed that a line is straight. It has no curves. I notice here that even though it connects 2 points and they show us that there's this blue line here, that in reality, if this was a map, if I drew this on my map with a ruler, that I wouldn't actually see that on the map. It just is just kind of showing me kind of connecting two places. So maybe if I was over here standing at A and you're over here standing by B, we can see each other, and we can like imagine this line segment going between us. What else do you notice that's different than the line? When I push that button, what do we notice changing? We notice that a line is not infinite. So a line does have ends. It has endpoints. So I'm going to go back to my notebook now and write that down. So line segment, I notice that it is straight as well. I notice that it connects, it connects to, well, I should say, it connects points. And it does have ends. We'll say it has ends. It does not go on forever. And in here, why don't we put a little drawing of a line segment too, so that we remember what that looks like. All right. And let's see here. So the last thing we're going to look at is called array. So I'm going to write that down again. What do I notice? I notice. And then I'll have you experiment with array this time and tell me about what you notice about the ray. How is it different than the point and the line? Here we are at that ray. So go ahead and experiment with this for a while and write down some things that you notice about the ray. All right. So now we can really start to add up some of the things that we notice. We notice that it's straight. We know that it has no size. We see that it has one end point where it starts, but it goes on forever in another direction. Let's go ahead and write that down. I notice, let's see here, I notice that it is straight. I notice that, but the new thing about array is that it goes on, it has one end point, and then we'll say it has one end point, and it goes on forever in one direction. And the example that I like to use for array is imagine a flashlight. A flashlight is an example of array, and obviously the rays of a sun would be another example. So let's draw a couple of those examples. The first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my info here and I'm going to shrink it down a little bit so it's out of the way. I notice, and one example is let's see here, a flashlight. So I'll draw a little flashlight here, And then let's see what the flashlight has. That it's got like a little, there we go, and it has light coming out of it this way. So notice that the light starts here, it starts in the flashlight, and it goes out that way, only in one direction. Another way to imagine it would be like the rays of a sun. If you're making a poster or something about this, you might do that. So that's just and so the symbol of a ray is that. It's a one endpoint, a line, and an arrow. So these terms are useful because we're going to be using these in geometry as we move through geometry. We'll need to know what we mean when we say a ray or a line segment. If you're wondering what you might do to follow this work up, definitely a lot of art you can do with these terms: point, line, ray, and line segment. I've seen some awesome posters. So I recommend for some follow-on work to take out your pencils. Make sure to have your colored pencils handy, and create a poster or a piece of artwork that includes a point, a line, and a ray. And make sure that you label your points and your lines and your rays, and that you're using these correct symbols. Like a ray is this point at one end and an arrow in the other, or a line segment, or a line which has 2 points and a line going through them like this. So experiment with that tool a little bit that I was showing you, and make some cool art that includes a point, a line, and ray, and label them so that I understand that you understand the difference between them. Have fun with this work, and let me know if you have any questions.